What a close to but not quite perfect evening. I don't know if you've ever met any people like that, if you know any people like, maybe you do. These people, they just sort of, no matter what you do, they're not going to be satisfied, and they always know what to do. I don't think I've ever had anybody order for me before. I'll just order for you, because I probably did. But, maybe you know some people like that, and so we're going to look at that today. We're in the second week of our series, I Choose. I want to welcome to the lake again. It's this series where we're looking at the choices that we make in our life, and the decisions that we're faced with, and the choices we make when we're faced with those decisions. And if we look at it closely, really, that we are the sum of our decisions. We are the sum of our choices. What we've decided in the past, what we chose to do in the past, define who we are today. It makes us who we are. And what we choose to do today, the decisions we make today, will be who we become. Last week, we started this series, I Choose, with our student pastor, Eric. I thought he did a great job last week. Y'all, if you were here, I thought he did a fantastic job. Because he showed us about the choices we made between purpose over popularity. We choose purpose, how we look for these everyday moments. Not this giant event, but an everyday moment that we go through in our life, and we choose purpose. We choose to define who we are and let people know that we are a follower of Jesus Christ, that we do stand up, that we put our faith into action. I thought it was a really good start to the series, and so I thought today what I'll do is I'll share with us another choice that all of us, many of us, I'm sure, are going to face one day and have to make a decision about. But before I do, I want to ask this question. How many of us, now don't look at the people beside you or around you, and don't point at anybody, and don't elbow anybody. Look straight ahead as I ask this question. How many of people feel that we may somewhere in our life, some section of our life, we have to be in control? Raise your hand. I have to be in control. It has to be my way or the highway. You have to do it my way or it can't be done. It's not going to be, or maybe you know somebody. No, don't look and don't elbow, but we might notice these people who say that this project, it has to be done in this way. It has to be done my way. Don't touch that. Don't move that. This is the way the floors are supposed to be vacuumed. This is how the yard should be mowed. This is how the bed should be made. This is... I'm getting, no, listen, there's people, they're control freaks. They really are. They're control freaks, and I'm kind of like that sometimes, and we drive people crazy. But I've learned this week, and we'll try and share with you today, that Jesus can set us free from all these control freaks, so we can change their lives. Because, we can, she's like, yes. All right. I don't know who you're talking about, Julie, but, but, there's where was I at? Okay, we can make fun of control freaks all day long. And we just have a blast with this, but in reality, whenever we're trying to control something that's not ours to control, when it's not ours to control, then it's a reflection of some kind of spiritual problem going on inside. A problem going on inside of us, especially in a spiritual relationship, in a relationship with God, that God can't do it good enough. He's not going to be good enough in this area. He might can do this, but I'll keep this to myself. I'm not going to let him have control of this. I have to control this because he just can't do a good enough job. And if we read through the scriptures, if we open the Bible and start reading through the scriptures, we find out that we're not supposed to live our life that way. Where we section off, this is for God, and this is for me, and this is for so, and this is for God, but this part, we're not supposed to live that way. As believers in God and as followers of Jesus, to demand that this area of my life is to be controlled by me, or I need to have control in this area, is opposite of what God has called us to do and how we've been called to live. What I want to do is I want to share with you the most quoted and the most popular passage from the Bible. Many of you probably memorized it growing up. You probably memorized it recently. You can probably say it word for word. And it's the most popular, but yet at the same time, it's the most difficult passage to live our life by. It's Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Oh, yeah, I know that one. I've said that. I said that as a child. I memorized that as a child. But today what I want you to do, as we read it, I want you to see it for the first time. Train your eyes and your mind to see it for the first time, to read it for the first time. You've never heard this passage before. Let's look at what it says. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Just that. Just those words right there. To present to God our entire life. to trust Him with my entire life, all of your heart, completely surrendered, completely put in God's hands. Not just for a part-time and not occasionally. Not just trust God on Sunday morning, or to trust God when you're reading the Bible, or trust God when you're sitting in the doctor's office. But it's every moment of your life, at every moment of your life, to trust God. And then that's it's like I want to ask myself, how much of my heart do I trust God with? Do I allow Him all of my heart? Do I keep a section of my life to myself? And if you're a control freak, like I can be sometimes, there's that section that I want to hold on to and I want to control. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And then it gets really hard. And lean not on your own understanding. Don't do it your way. But I know how to do this. I know how to handle this. I can figure this out. I've done it before. This is mine. I need to be in control in this area of my life, in this circumstance. I can handle this. I need to control this. I don't need any outside help. God, you can do this, but not here. This is where I want to be in control. This is mine. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him. In everything we do, every moment of every day, every moment of our life, every decision we're ever faced with, we're to trust God completely. We are to submit completely to God. We're to surrender completely to His ways of doing this, to His plan, not our ways, not our plan. We're supposed to submit to God. And when we approach God that way and we surrender to God, we surrender to His control in our life, what happens? And He will make your paths straight. He will lead us. He will guide us. He will help us live the life that He's designed for us. He'll be with us every step of the way. He'll be there right through every trial and every struggle. He says, I'll be right there. He'll make your path straight. He'll give you the light at the end of the tunnel. He'll give you hope. He'll give you assurance. And He'll give you a purpose in your life. But there's a big if to this passage. Well, I don't see an if in there. I've memorized this and I don't see. You trust in the Lord and He'll do this if He has control. All this will take place. He will make your path straight if He has control. If He has all our heart, He will make our path straight. And as a follower of Jesus, when I read this and I hear this, I choose. I make a choice when I read this. I choose surrender over control. I will choose surrender. I will surrender to God, I want Him to lead my way. I want Him to lead my paths. I'll choose because I know that God's plans are better than my plans, that God's ways are better than mine. So I should choose surrender over control. But what if I choose control instead? What if I'm that so controlled freak that I have this area of my life? I need to be in control with this area. God, I know You're the creator of everything. You've created all things for Your purpose and Your plan and all. That's all this has been done by You. But this little area right here, this circumstance right here, what I'm dealing with, I need to control this. I need to have this. This is that control freak mentality. Maybe you don't hear it as much as you hear the word ego. You ever heard somebody has a high ego? It's all about their ego. E-G-O. It happens when we edge God out. When we place God below us and we can do better than God because we just don't think He can pull this off. We just can't fully submit to God because we have to be in control. We have to handle this our way. All this matters is in our hand. We take everything into our hands. And what happens when we do that? When we decide that we're above God, that we can do it better than God? When we take control, when we try to take control of a spiritual matter, let's just say a spiritual matter, a dealing in our life, and a dealing in our spirit, and a dealing in our purpose, and a dealing in our family, and whatever what we believe. When we're faced with that, when we try to control that ourselves, and not surrender completely to God, not trust the Lord with all our heart, then we rarely get it right. The South, we messed up. It's just how it goes. So what I want to share with you an event that happened in the Old Testament, in the first book of the Bible, in Genesis, where control's gone bad. Someone chose control, and everything went bad from that point on. It's an event and an illustration about Abram and Sarai. Later on, you might recognize them as Abraham and Sarah. Their names will change. But when God first meets them and introduces himself to them, it's Abram and Sarai. And they have wanted their entire life nothing more than to have a child. They're childless. They would have nothing more than to have a child. And God makes a promise to Abram. God tells Abram that through you, you will be the father of many nations. Not just 2 or 3 kids, nations. Can you imagine that? Well, are you expecting? Yeah, how many? Nations. Yeah, it's not like 1 or 2, but nations. And this is like an incredible promise that they're going to have a family that's going to start with them and be multiplied into nations. And this is incredible. And what happens? Nothing. God makes a promise. And months later, no child. Years later, no child, nothing. So Sarai, Abram's wife, decides to take matters into her own hands, just like a lot of people will do today. God's timing is not matching up with my timing. God's promise hasn't happened, so I'm going to take matters into my own hand. I choose control. I'm not going to surrender anymore and wait on him. I'm going to do this, and I have a plan to make what he has promised to come about. I'm going to put this into motion, and it's going to come about. This is what it says in Genesis chapter 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, which is Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave." And here it is. "Perhaps I can build a family through her. I'll take control." God's not coming through on what he's not doing what he said he was going to do. I'm taking control. I'm edging him out. I'm a control freak. I wanted a child, and I'm going to find a way for us to have nations, and this is my way of doing it. And then the next part just messes me up. Abram agreed to what Sarai said. What? God came to Abram personally and made a promise to him. And now Sarai, his wife, says, "I got a better way." And he agreed. See, when I read this, my mind goes to the first part of Genesis, the Garden of Eden, where Eve had been convinced that God hadn't told her everything he needed to tell her, that there was more to life, that she could have more knowledge than God, that she could have an ego above God, that she could control things. So she ate the fruit and gave it to Adam, and Adam agreed. They messed up. And I figured out, all right, if they messed up and then God floods the world and starts all over, surely they won't make the same mistake again. But here you have Abram and Sarah. They do the same thing. God's timing doesn't match their timing of when to have children, so they took control, and from that point on, things went bad. From that point right there, things start going bad. Now, you might know, if you've read the Bible, you might know what happened next, but you may not know the impact of what happened next to centuries and generations of people, all because of a moment of choosing control. That I need to be in control. God's not doing this, so I'm going to take control. This is how it worked. Hagar has a son. His name is Ishmael. Ishmael is right here. This was Sarai's plan. Her plan was Ishmael. Not God's plan, but her plan. God's promise was later, Sarai gets pregnant, and she has Isaac. God's promise. The beginning of nations. Really? Yes. Ishmael. If you look at the genealogy, if you do a genealogical study of these two men, Ishmael and Isaac. From Ishmael, you have the Palestinian nation. From Isaac, you have the Jewish nation. God's promise. From Ishmael, you have Muhammad. From Isaac, you have Jesus. Centuries, thousands of years later, there's still tension between the Palestinians and the Jewish nation of Israel. Today, there's still questions. Do we follow Muhammad? Do we follow Jesus? All because someone took control, did not surrender to God's promise, but took control and said, God's not doing it quick enough. He's not matching my timing. Our timings are not. I'm going to take control. I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to do it my way. All because they made a choice to do it. I'm going to bring this about my way. It happens today in our lives. Let's just say you're a single Christian girl and you're waiting for that single Christian guy. That y'all would be that couple. But no single Christian guy has come into the picture. So you settle for any guy. Well, I know he's not a believer. I know he doesn't go to church. I know he doesn't really read the Bible. I know we shouldn't be together, that it's not going to work. But I can change him. And they never mentioned that I will pray that God would change him and make him a Christian guy. And then no. God's not coming quick enough. He's not bringing that guy quick enough. So this is my plan. I'll change him. I'll change her. Financially, we find ourselves struggling financially. We've been part of a church for a long time, and we know that we're supposed to trust God with everything, and we're supposed to put God first in everything in our life, that we're supposed to present a tithe to the Lord based on an act of worship, based on how he has blessed us. But it doesn't make sense right now to do that, so I'm going to decide how much I give to God. Ouch. I mean, that's how we know we should allow God control, but he hasn't come through like we thought he would. He hasn't answered my prayer like I thought he should, so I'll take it from here. I'll be in charge right now. He can have Sunday morning, but when I go to work, I'm in charge. When it comes Friday night, Saturday night, God, you can wait till Sunday morning, but tonight is my night. This is how I will live. So here's what I want you to do. Well, I want you to think about some area in your life. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a situation, maybe it's a circumstance, maybe it's just something that you need to control. I need to have control over this person. I need to have control over this situation, whatever it is. I mean, ask yourself, am I trying to control my kids? Am I trying to control my grown kids? Because they're not raising my grandbabies like I think they should. Am I trying to control my job? Am I trying to control my future? Am I trying to control my image? Am I trying to control, heaven forbid, am I trying to control my spouse? What is it I am trying to control? Think about it. Write it down if you have to. What's this one area I feel like I need to be in control in? And then ask yourself this. Is this something I really need to control? Do I really need to control this? Or in another way of saying it, is it that big a deal? Is it that big a deal that I'm in control of this, that I'm in control of this, that I call the shots here? Is it really that big a deal? I mean, is it really worth getting upset about something? Is it really worth upsetting people and making others' lives miserable because somebody didn't fold the towels the right way? Hang them up just the right way? I mean, 5 years from now, is it really going to matter how the towels are folded? Is it really going to matter how you vacuum from the bedrooms to the living room, or from the living room to the bedroom? Is it really going to matter how the yard is mowed, if it's straight lines this way or straight lines that way or circles or checkerboard? Is it really going to matter? Years from now, is it really going to matter if one day your child decides to walk out of the house dressed in clothes that do not perfectly match or go together, and their hair is messed up? Yeah, I got a yes. It does matter. See, no. Really, will they not get into the right college and live the rest of their life on the streets because they chose to wear that shirt out in public? I mean, really, is that what it comes down to? Is it really that big a deal? Do you really think that's going to make a difference in people's lives? That's what we put under control. Does it really matter about the things that really don't matter that much? Do we really get all upset about it? This is what control does when we do that. Control hurts relationships. Control will destroy intimacy in a marriage. Control will end friendships and drive our kids crazy. That might not be a bad thing, but sometimes it's fun to drive them crazy. But is it really that big a deal that I have to be in control, that I need to be in control of that? Or ask yourself this thing I want to control, is it mine to control? Is what I'm dealing, should I be in control of this? Is this situation something I should do something about? And if I really would ask you sometimes, let me tell you, sometimes the answer has to be yes. Sometimes it needs to be yes. Yes, I need to do something about this. How many of us know that God's not going to do everything for us? I mean, He's not going to say, you just wake up and go to sleep and I'll take care of everything else. He's given us abilities. He's given us a life to live. That means He's given us something that we should do. We should put into practice. We should put it into motion. He's designed us to do things here on earth. There's a big difference between surrendering control and relinquishing responsibility. We are not to relinquish our responsibility because we surrender control to God. We've been given responsibilities, and when we do surrender to God, then quite possibly our responsibilities will finally be taken care of. We'll finally do what we're supposed to do if we surrender to God, and He leads us on the way we should go and makes our path straight. We don't push aside our responsibilities. Like I mentioned earlier, if we're in a financial mess, are we really supposed to sit down and say, well, God, I can't pay this off, I can't pay that off, and I can't pay that off. You're going to have to take care of this. So do your thing. And he's probably, I gave you an ability. I gave you talents. I gave you a mind. I gave you 2 hands and 2 feet and a good back. Do something about it. You do something. Maybe it's just to sit down at the table and say, all right, let's devise, it's a terrible word, but let's devise a budget. Let's just put together a budget here. Let's sort of prioritize some important things because it's got out of whack. Let's put God first. Let's go ahead and place Him first. Let's not spend any more than we make. Let's try to reel that in. Let's do something about this financial problem. And God's going to bless that because we do something. It's something for us to do. I mean, if the marriage is struggling, if there's issues in the marriage and things aren't quite, then my first step to you would be to say, look in the mirror. Adjust your heart. Seek God. Seek counseling. Try to get with some other couples in church, maybe in a connection group. Just get some spiritual support. And see, do something. Don't just sit there and watch it waste away. No, do something. Make something happen. But if your child is making bad decisions, then make yourself available to your child. Build a bridge, not a wall. I can't deal with them. I can't talk to them. They don't listen. No, build a bridge. It's a two-way street. You talk and you listen. Develop some communication skills. God gave us a voice. God gave us a heart. He gave us a child. We have responsibilities. Do not relinquish your responsibilities because I'm going to surrender to God. No. We've been given responsibilities. Do something about it. If there's something that we have control over, then we need to do something about it, not just watch. There are times we need to step up and be who God has made us to be. Take hold of those responsibilities. If it's something I need to control, then I need to control and do something about it. If it's not something for me to control, then is it for God alone? Is this something for God alone? Is this something going on in my life that I'm trying desperately to control, but it's out of my bounds? I can't control this. I don't have any say-so in this. It's beyond me. Maybe this is something I should surrender to God. Maybe I should just turn it over to God and let Him take care of this. The Apostle Paul, when he was in prison and when he was in house arrest, he was always chained to a Roman guard. Whether he was in prison or in Rome under house arrest, it was always a Roman guard chained to him. And while he's chained to this Roman guard, he writes these amazing words to a church in Philippi, to the believers in Philippi. And just before I read this, I want to let you know, and remember, Paul is a Pharisee among Pharisees. He's like the top dog. When he was in the Pharisees, when he was part of the Sanhedrin and all that, he was like a top dog. That means he memorized the first 5 books of the Bible completely and knew all of the rest of the scriptures through what we call the Old Testament. So he knows Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. To trust in the Lord with all your heart, and not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. He knows that. He's lived that. And he says this in Philippians 4, verse 6 and 7. Do not be anxious about anything. Let me ask you, how many of us have been anxious about something this past week? Anxious about it, unsure about how this is going to go, fearful of what might happen because we don't have control over it. All we've done is we sent in the application, we've sat down for the interview, and we have no idea how this is going to turn out. No idea, and we just start fretting about it. They didn't call within the hour. They didn't call by that afternoon. They haven't called the next day, and we're falling apart because we can't control it. Paul says, do not be anxious about anything. But in every situation, no matter what's going on, no matter what the world throws at us, no matter what we're going through, what we're dealing with, what we're facing, no matter what she did or what he said, it says that we are to, in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. This is Paul saying, in all your ways, and everything that's going on in your life, you need to surrender. You need to submit to God. You need to submit control to God. You need to go to Him. You need to talk to Him. You need to ask His help. You need to thank Him for what He's done in your past. And you need to trust Him. Present your request to God. What that means is trust the Lord with all your heart and in all your ways. Submit to Him and He will make your paths straight. And if we would trust God like that, He's saying, don't be anxious about this stuff, but come to God and talk. If we would trust Him that way, understanding now that we have access to God. We don't have to go through somebody else. We don't have to call a mediator in. We don't have to call a preacher in. We can go directly to God, and we can talk to Him and have an audience with Him. And we know from Scriptures and from our relationship with Him through Jesus Christ that He's going to listen. He's going to hear us. He's going to answer us. Maybe not like we want and maybe not in our time, but He cares about us and He loves us, so He will speak with us. And this is what happens when we go to God and we trust Him like that, knowing He's going to hear us because He loves us. It says, and the peace of God, not man's peace. See, man's peace is called satisfaction. And we get that when we do things our way and it works. When we decide to take control and we do things our way in our time and how we want to get it done and we feel like we've accomplished it, then we can relax now. We're satisfied. But we're not talking about God's satisfaction or man's satisfaction. They're talking about the peace of God. And this peace is a supernatural peace. This is a completely different kind of peace that he's talking about. This peace transcends all understanding. We can't figure this peace out. We don't have any idea what it's doing to us, but because we can't explain it. This peace will transcend all understanding, and it will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus, because we have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. No matter what we're facing, if we'll walk to God, if we'll come to God and we'll present our prayers and our petitions and our thanksgiving to God, He will give us a peace that nobody can explain. Nobody can describe it. And you probably say, well, Ronnie, surely. No. I've talked to some of you. This peace makes your paths straight. I've met with people in funeral homes. I've met with people in hospital rooms, in emergency rooms, in the morgue. I've met with people in their homes. They've been in my office, and they'll say, I don't know what happened. It's just like all this was happening, this peace. This peace comes over me. This peace washes over me. I said, well, describe it. I can't describe it. I can't explain it. It's just like the weight's gone. Peace which transcends all understanding. It guards my heart and my mind, and it will lead me in the way I should go. See, when we choose surrender over control, when we choose to surrender to God, everything, not just part, but everything, our life's no longer the same. Our life changes because the way we choose to live matters to God. So much so that He gave His Son for us. He gave His Son for us so that if we believe and accept that His sacrifice of His Son, then we would live the life that God designed for us. But as long as we demand control from God, God, you can have this area of my life but not this area. I want this area. I need to control. As long as we do that and we try to do things our way, we will always face trials. We will always face disappointments. But the minute we choose to surrender our control and just give it to God, He moves in. And then He moves through our life. Changes everything. No matter what the world throws at us. No matter how hard it seems at times. because He loves us, because of our decision to trust Him with all our heart, He gives us a peace in our life that no one can describe or explain. And that peace right there, that's why I choose. That's why I choose surrender over control, because I know what control will do. It'll hurt me. It'll hurt others. But when I surrender, God will lead me and guide me in the way that I should go. He'll make my paths straight. Let's pray. God, there's moments in our life that we know, you know us, that we have to be in control. Sometimes we're embarrassed by the fact that we have to control this. It has to be done this way, and it's not satisfactory unless it's done this. God, can you just train our hearts not to live for satisfaction, but to live for peace? A peace that transcends all understanding. A peace that can't really be explained, it can only be experienced. To help me surrender this control, to surrender my life, to trust you with all of my heart, to get me beyond 1 hour on a Sunday morning, to help me experience this moment, this time with you every day. Every moment I'm awake, every decision I'm faced with. If I can do something about it, God, help me. You've given me an ability. Show me that ability that I can take care of this. Because, God, there's some things that I spend too much time trying to control, and it really is not going to make that much a difference. And in the areas where I can't, I have no control, even though I try, God, would you just step in? Please take control of this. There's many times, God, that I've prayed and not know the answer, not have even a clue how things are going to go. I know how I'd like for it to go, but that's going to be my doing. And I've watched as I've turned things over to you, how you made things so much better. You let me see things I never even thought of. You've healed the hurts. You've calmed those storms. I could paddle in the boat all day long and not get to the other side, but when I trust you, I'm there in an instant. So God, today in my life, let this day begin at this moment where I surrender and I give you control of my heart. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.